I need 10 days away to decide if you're father material. My wife suggested a trial separation. I discovered her secret life, filed for divorce, and now she's in a mental facility claiming I got her sister pregnant. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. Alright folks, let me start by saying I never thought I'd be posting my relationship drama on Reddit. But here we are. Some shit you just can't make up. My wife and I had been married for just over 4 years. Started out decent enough, both had solid jobs, bought a starter home in a decent neighborhood, normal couple stuff. About 6 months ago, the topic of kids came up. Not for the first time, but more seriously than before. I think we should start trying, I said one night over dinner. Nothing crazy, just felt like the natural next step. The look on her face, man. Like I'd suggested we rob a bank or something. Are you sure you're ready for that kind of responsibility? She asked, in this weird tone I'd never heard before. Yeah? We're both 32, financially stable, have the space. Why wouldn't I be? That's when shit got weird. She started listing off all these little things about me that apparently made me questionable dad material. I leave dishes in the sink sometimes. I play video games on weekends. I don't always remember to take out the trash without being reminded. These are just normal human things, I said. What's the real issue here? She got all defensive. I just think parenting requires a certain level of maturity that maybe we haven't reached yet. Not you, we. But the way she looked at me made it pretty clear who she thought the immature one was. The conversation died there, but something had changed. I started noticing things. How she'd make these little comments when her friends with kids would complain about their husbands. See, that's exactly what I'm worried about with Jason. Or how she'd suddenly talk about her single friend Mina's amazing freedom to travel and date and find herself. Then the real bomb dropped on a random Tuesday evening. We were watching some stupid Netflix show when she just pauses it and turns to me. I think we should try living separately for 10 days. I just stared at her. Come again? Not like a breakup, she clarified quickly. More like a trial separation. To gain perspective. Perspective on what exactly? She fidgeted with the remote. On us. On whether we're really ready for the next step. Whether we're really meant to be parents. Together. I sat there processing this absolute bullshit. She wasn't just questioning my dad potential anymore. She was questioning our entire relationship. Let me get this straight, I said slowly. You want a 10-day break from our marriage to decide if I'm good enough to be the father of your children? Don't put it like that, she snapped. It's not about being good enough. It's about being sure before we make a permanent decision. My friend Jen did this with her husband before they decided to have kids. Your friend Jen is divorced, I said. Like who the hell get relationship advices from someone who's divorced? She seemed pissed that I criticized her godmother Jen. That's not the point. The point is, I need space to be sure this is what I want. Being tied to someone forever through a child is a huge commitment. And marriage wasn't? She had the audacity to roll her eyes. Marriage is different. People get divorced all the time. A child is forever. I sat there for a second staring at the table. Then I just simply said, hell no. Like, why would I agree on this BS? She blinked, clearly not expecting that response. What? Hell! Number I'm not doing some bullshit trial separation so you can decide if I'm daddy material. That's not how marriage works. Her face flushed. Wow, you're not even open to discussing this? This is exactly the kind of closed-mindedness I'm talking about. Maybe if you read more about modern relationships and how they evolve. Read more. Are you kidding me? This isn't about being modern or evolved. This is about respect. Basic respect for our marriage. She crossed her arms. I think you're overreacting. And I think if you don't want to be with me anymore, just say it. Don't hide behind this trial separation bullshit. That's not what this is about, she insisted, voice rising. I never said I don't want to be with you. I just need space to think about this huge life decision. The huge life decision was 4 years ago when you said I do, I shot back. If you're having second thoughts now, that's on you. The argument escalated from there. Her accusing me of being controlling and insecure. Me pointing out that testing your marriage isn't normal behavior. Back and forth until she stormed off to the guest bedroom and slammed the door. I slept like shit that night, my mind racing. Was this really about having kids? Or was she looking for an exit strategy? Honestly, guys, I'm at a complete loss here. Do you think I'm overreacting? I get that having kids is a huge decision, but suggesting we need to live separately to figure out if we're meant to be together? That feels like a massive red flag to me. We've been solid for 4 years. Not perfect, but good. And now suddenly she's questioning everything. Because I want to start a family? I don't want to throw away our marriage over something stupid, but I also can't shake the feeling that there's something bigger going on here. What would you do in my situation? Is this trial separation thing normal and I'm just being stubborn? Or is my gut right that this is the beginning of the end? Any advice would be appreciated because right now I'm completely lost. But I'm going to read about that separation BS just to know what I'm dealing with, lol. Update 1. Hey again, Reddit. First, thanks for all the comments on my original post. I didn't expect so many responses. You gave me a lot to think about. Let me tell you what happened. So the next morning after our fight, she came down looking contrite. I'm sorry about last night, she said, sitting across from me at the breakfast table. I didn't explain myself well. I didn't mean to make it sound like I was questioning us or our marriage. What else could trial separation possibly mean? I asked. She fidgeted with her coffee mug. I've been feeling overwhelmed with the idea of becoming a mom. My friends make it look so hard, and their husbands don't seem to help much. And I guess I panicked. I wasn't buying it, but I nodded. If you're not ready for kids, just say that. We can wait. But suggesting we live separately to test our relationship? That's a whole other thing. She agreed, and we seemed to reach an uneasy truce. Crisis averted, or so I thought. But over the next few weeks, I noticed a change. She started staying out later. Girls' nights that used to happen once a month were now weekly. Suddenly, she had all these appointments: hair, nails, shopping, brunch with friends. Anytime I suggested we do something together, she had plans. It hit me one day when I was sitting alone eating takeout for the third night that week. She was doing the separate lives thing anyway. Not officially, not with the label she'd tried to put on it, but in practice. She was pulling away, creating distance, seeing what life was like without me around. So I decided on a simple approach: say absolutely nothing about it and quietly plan my exit strategy. If she wanted to test our marriage, fine. Let's see how that plays out. I'm not the kind of guy who makes a big scene. Never have been. So instead of confronting my wife about her gradual disappearing act, I just observed and planned. Monday, yoga with the girls, don't wait up. Tuesday, dinner with Jen to discuss her divorce, probably be late. Wednesday, hair appointment after work, then dinner with coworkers. Thursday, shopping for Mina's birthday gift, then we're getting dinner. Friday, happy hour with the office, might crash at Jen's if it gets late. Our weekends together dwindled to her sleeping in, then rushing off to brunches, shopping trips, or suddenly urgent errands. When she was home, she was glued to her phone, smiling at texts, stepping out of the room to take calls. Classic signs of someone mentally checking out of a relationship. But instead of demanding explanations because I knew it will break into another fight, I just let it happen. I wanted to see how far she wanted to go. And while she was busy finding herself, or whatever the hell she was doing, I started methodically preparing for the inevitable. I had to first deal with the finances, so I opened a new personal bank account and began diverting half my paychecks there. Nothing shady, still contributed my full share to joint expenses, just making sure I had my own money secured. I also quietly consulted with a divorce attorney too. Got the lowdown on what to expect, what documentation to gather, how to protect myself during the whole process. If she's displaying this kind of behavior without actually asking for a divorce, you might want to bide your time, Rick advised. Document the pattern of absence. Keep text messages where she cancels plans or mentions staying out. It establishes the narrative of her disengagement from the marriage. So that's what I did. Started a log of every night she didn't come home, every plan she canceled, every family event she skipped. Saved screenshots of her social media posts, showing her out living her best life while I was home alone. Meanwhile, I acted completely normal. Didn't pick fights, didn't make accusations. When she was home, I was cordial, but distant. When she was gone, I focused on setting up my new life. I researched apartments in my price range, started digitizing and securing important documents, took inventory of what possessions actually mattered to me, slowly began moving sentimental items and important papers to a small storage unit I rented. The weird thing was, she didn't seem to notice any of this. She was so wrapped up in her own journey of self-discovery or whatever that she completely missed the fact that I was methodically detaching from our marriage. About a month into this bizarre limbo, her sister Rachel called me out of the blue. Hey Jason, just checking in. Haven't seen you guys in a while. Everything okay? I wasn't sure how much to tell Rachel, so I just kept it simple. Told her Kiva was crazy busy lately with work and friends, and we barely saw each other anymore. Rachel got quiet for a sec, then dropped that Kiva had been acting weird at family stuff too. Always distracted, checking her phone nonstop. Even said their mom was getting concerned. I just thanked her and said Kiva, and I would figure our shit out. After hanging up, I had to wonder if Rachel had any clue how badly her sister had checked out of our marriage. Probably not. Kiva was always good at faking it for everyone else, putting on the happy wife show while living a completely different life behind the scenes. 2 days later, I came home to find Kiva actually there for once, cooking dinner. This was so unusual that I actually stopped in the doorway, wondering if I'd entered the wrong house. "Hey," she said brightly. "I thought we could use a nice meal together." "It's been a while." I set my keys down, watching her suspiciously. "What's the occasion?" "No occasion, just missed you." She came over and tried to kiss me, but I turned slightly so she caught my cheek instead. She frowned. "Everything okay?" "Fine. Just surprised to see you here. It's been a while." She had the grace to look slightly embarrassed. "I know I've been busy lately. Work's been crazy, and with Jen going through her divorce, she's needed a lot of support." I just nodded, not calling her on the obvious bullshit. She hadn't been busy. She'd been systematically avoiding me in our home. "Anyway," she continued too brightly, "I thought we could talk about the baby thing again. I've been doing some thinking, and maybe I've been too hesitant. If it's important to you." And there it was. She'd gone out, tested freedom, and was now hedging her bets, coming back to her safe option, the backup plan. "Actually," I said, "I've been doing some thinking too. I'm not sure this is the right time for us to have a kid." Her face registered surprise, then relief. "Really? What changed your mind?" "Just looking at our lives recently. Our priorities seem pretty different right now." She looked excited. "Yes, exactly. That's what I've been trying to say. We both need space to grow individually before we take such a huge step." "Space," I repeated. Interesting word choice. She missed the edge in my voice, continuing to stir whatever was on the stove. "Anyway, I'm glad we're on the same page. I was worried you'd be disappointed." I shrugged. Things change. We ate dinner with forced conversation, her filling the silence with stories about her friends and their drama. I nodded in the right places, volunteered nothing about my own activities, and excused myself as soon as possible. That night, something hardened inside me. No more waiting around, no more hoping things would magically improve. I finalized my plan with cold determination. 1 more month. That's all I'd give this farce of a marriage. 1 more month of documentation, preparation, and silent observation. Then I'd execute my exit strategy without mercy or hesitation. The countdown had begun, and I don't think there's a way to go back now. I'll keep you guys updated. Update 2. Hey Reddit. A lot of you asked for an update, so here goes. Things have progressed exactly how many of you predicted they would. So, the next few weeks after my last update followed a predictable pattern. After that forced reconnection dinner, my wife went right back to her vanishing act. If anything, she seemed to take my apparent acceptance of the situation as permission to be even more absent. Meanwhile, I kept working my plan. Meeting with divorce attorneys. Found a great one, I'll call her Melissa. She specializes in cases like mine. Securing finances. Documenting the timeline of our deteriorating marriage. My third sit-down with Melissa was pretty reassuring. She basically said that without kids in the picture, this whole divorce thing should be pretty straightforward. The house would be the biggest headache to deal with, but nothing too crazy. I asked if all my documentation of Kiva's vanishing acts would actually mean anything legally. Melissa gave me the real talk. In our no-fault state, it wouldn't directly change anything on paper, but showing a pattern of her basically ghosting the marriage could help sway things during negotiations. Even judges, with all their legal mumbo-jumbo, were still regular people who could spot someone checking out of a relationship. Good to know all my detective work wasn't for nothing. I continued gathering evidence. Screenshots of her constantly canceling plans. Photos from her friends' social media showing her out at bars and restaurants when she claimed to be working late. A log of every night she didn't come home, with timestamps and any excuses offered. One particular Friday, she texted that she was helping Jen move some furniture and would be crashing there since it'll be late. Out of curiosity, I drove by Jen's apartment around 10 p.m. My wife's car was nowhere to be seen. I took photos to document this, then went home and added it to my evidence file. I wasn't even angry anymore. Just done. The woman I'd married no longer existed. Or maybe she never had. Either way, the shell that remained wasn't someone I wanted to build a life with. As the final phase of my preparation, I started moving my essential belongings to a small apartment I'd leased across town. Nothing obvious, just gradually relocating clothes I rarely wore, books I'd already read, personal mementos I couldn't bear to lose in a contentious divorce. The place was furnished, so I didn't need to move any large items yet. My wife, predictably, noticed none of this. She was so rarely home that I could have repainted the entire house, and she might not have spotted it for days. The breaking point came when Rachel hit me up on a random Tuesday afternoon asking if Kiva was with me. Apparently, they had lunch plans to plan their mom's birthday, but Kiva never showed. I told her that Kiva left for work that morning like normal. That's when things got interesting. Turns out Kiva had told her mom she'd taken the day off specifically for errands and meeting Rachel. When I suggested checking with her usual alibi crew, Rachel said she already tried Jen and Mina. Nobody had seen her. Rachel seemed genuinely worried, but I wasn't worried. I was furious. My wife was now lying to everyone, not just me, creating elaborate fictions to cover her tracks. But where was she actually going? With whom? I decided I didn't care. It didn't matter. The marriage was dead regardless of where she was spending her time. That evening, she waltzed in around 7 p.m. looking all relaxed and happy, dropped her purse on the counter and asked about my day like everything was totally normal. I mentioned Rachel had texted me about some missed lunch, and man, you should have seen her face. Just for a split second, her eyes got all wide before she pulled it together. Came up with this whole story about forgetting, being scattered lately, blah blah blah. When I pointed out that Rachel thought she had the day off and had told her mom she was running errands, there was another flash of oh shit across her face. Then boom, new bullshit about taking a half day, doctor's appointment, getting days mixed up, working from home. The lies just rolled off her tongue so smooth and practiced. Gotta admit, it was almost impressive how good she'd gotten at this crap. Working from home, I repeated. Not this home, I'm guessing. She froze. What's that supposed to mean? I shrugged. Just an observation. You're hardly ever here anymore. Figured you must have another home these days. Are you accusing me of something? Her voice had taken on an edge. Not at all. Just stating facts. You're gone more than you're here. When you are here, you're distant. The only time you showed any interest in reconnecting was when you thought I might still want kids. Pretty clear picture. She shifted into defense mode. I've been supporting friends through difficult times. Jen's divorce has been brutal, and Mina's mom is sick, and work has been insanely demanding. Save it, I cut her off. I don't even care anymore. Do what you want, be where you want, with whoever you want. I'm done tracking your whereabouts. Her expression cycled through anger, guilt, everything. You know what? This is exactly why I needed space in the first place. You're so controlling, so suspicious. I can't even have a life without you interrogating me. I actually laughed at that. Controlling? I haven't said a word about your constant disappearing acts for weeks. You've been living the separate lives dream you wanted so badly, and now you're mad that I'm calling it what it is? That's not fair. I never wanted separate lives. No? Could have fooled me. When's the last time you spent an entire weekend at home? When's the last time you suggested we do something together? You've been checked out of this marriage for months. She had no good answer for that. Just stammered something about being busy and misunderstood. I stood up, suddenly tired of the whole charade. I'm going to bed, in the guest room. Enjoy the master bedroom. It's all yours now. As I walked away, she called after me. Is this it then? You're just giving up on us? I turned back one last time. That's rich coming from you. You gave up on us the minute you suggested that trial separation. And everything since has just been the slow motion collapse of something already broken. I've been sleeping in the guest room every night since then. She's made some half-assed attempts at fixing things over the past couple weeks, cooking dinner here and there, suggesting we watch a movie together. I stay polite but keep my distance. No point in pretending anymore. At this point, I'm just counting down the days. Got the apartment secured, divorce papers are drawn up and ready to file. Evidence is all compiled and organized. I'm just waiting for the perfect moment to pull the trigger on this whole operation. I'll update you guys once it's all done. Thanks for all the support and advice so far. It's honestly kept me sane through this whole clusterfuck. Update 3. Okay, Reddit. Sorry for the delay in updating, but I wanted to wait until I had actually executed my plan. A lot has happened, and you were all right. It was never going to get better. So 3 months after my wife first suggested our trial separation, I was ready to make my move. I'd chosen a Thursday deliberately. She always went out with coworkers on Thursdays, giving me plenty of time to execute my plan without interruption. That morning, we moved around each other like ghosts, our typical routine. She avoided eye contact. I kept conversation minimal. As she grabbed her keys to leave for work, I said casually, "Heading out with the office crew tonight?" She looked surprised that I'd asked. Yeah, probably. Why? Just wondering if I should wait up, I said. No need, she said quickly. Might crash at Jen's again if it gets late. Sure, I replied. Have fun. The moment her car pulled out of the driveway, I got to work. First call was to the locksmith I'd already vetted and scheduled. He arrived within the hour to change every lock in the house. Next came the movers, a small crew I'd hired to relocate my remaining essential items to my new apartment. I supervised as they carefully packed and removed my home office equipment, the remainder of my clothes, my personal electronics, and a few pieces of furniture that were unquestionably mine from before the marriage. By noon, the moving truck was pulling away, and I returned to the house to implement Phase 2. I gathered all the financial documents, our marriage certificate, tax returns, anything important, and placed them in a secure file box. I'd leave copies of anything she might need, but the originals were coming with me. Finally, I sat down at the kitchen table and arranged the 3 envelopes I'd prepared. 1. Divorce papers, already filed with the court that morning. 2. A detailed letter explaining my decision, the timeline of our deteriorating marriage, and proposed terms for the split. 3rd. A copy of every piece of evidence I'd gathered, documenting her absences, lies, and general abandonment of our relationship. I took one last walk through the house that had been our home for the past 4 years. So many memories, good and bad. I locked the front door behind me, using the key one last time before dropping it through the mail slot. Then I drove to my new apartment, ordered a pizza, and waited. The first text came at 6:17 p.m. "Why the fuck are the locks changed?" I didn't respond. The call started a minute later. I let them go to voicemail. The voicemails escalated from confusion to anger to panicked disbelief as she discovered the envelopes and their contents. "Call me back right now. What the hell is this? Divorce papers? Are you serious? You can't just leave like this. You can't just file without talking to me. Jason, please, we need to talk about this. This is insane." Around 8 p.m., the doorbell to my new apartment rang. I checked the peephole, unsurprised to see my wife standing there, looking disheveled and furious. I didn't know how she knew my address, BTW. "I know you're in there," she shouted through the door. "Your car is in the lot. Open the door, Jason." I didn't answer, but she kept texting and calling. She stayed outside my door for another hour, alternating between angry demands and tearful pleas. Eventually, a neighbor must have complained because I heard a security guard asking her to leave. After that, blessed silence. The next day, I woke up in my new place feeling lighter than I had in months. My phone showed 27 missed calls and over 40 texts, which I ignored for now. I'd said everything I needed to say in the letters. Around noon, Rachel called saying that Kiva had shown up at her place around midnight, completely hysterical about the divorce papers and me moving out. I calmly confirmed what I'd done, and Rachel seemed shocked by how sudden it all was. I had to hold back a laugh at that, and I explained to her that there was nothing sudden about it. Her sister had been checking out for months, with the trial separation suggestion, constant absences, and all the lies. Rachel was completely blindsided by the trial separation bit. Apparently, Kiva never mentioned that to her family. Not surprising. She also didn't know about all the lies Kiva had been telling everyone. She got quiet, then admitted she knew something was off, but hadn't realized how bad things had gotten. She actually apologized and said I deserved better than Kiva, which I appreciated more than I expected to. My lawyer called later with an update that Kiva had contacted the office, predictably upset. When my lawyer explained the terms and suggested she get her own attorney, she flipped out about being blindsided and accused me of acting in bad faith. My lawyer reminded her that in our no-fault state, none of that mattered legally, and our proposed asset division was more than fair. She hung up on him, and I was ready for whatever resistance she might throw my way. I'd spent months preparing while she was busy living her separate life. Now she could have all the separation she wanted, permanently. She hired a divorce attorney, of course, a sharky type who made noises about me abandoning the marital home and acting in bad faith. My lawyer, Melissa, brushed these off easily. Your documented timeline of her behavior establishes a clear pattern of her emotional abandonment of the marriage long before you physically left the home, she assured me. And the fair division of assets you've proposed leaves little room for claims of bad faith. The house became the main sticking point. She wanted to keep it. I wanted to sell and split the proceeds. Eventually, we agreed she could buy out my half if she could secure financing on her own. Given her sporadic employment history, this seemed unlikely, but I was willing to let her try. Throughout this process, I maintained minimal contact with her. All communication went through lawyers, which drove her crazy. She tried showing up at my work, my apartment, even my gym, always with the same demand. We need to talk about this. But I had nothing left to say. The letters I'd left had laid out everything clearly, how her suggestion of a trial separation had revealed her fundamental lack of commitment to our marriage, how her subsequent behavior had only confirmed this, how I'd reached the point where I no longer wanted to be with someone who had so little respect for me and our relationship. What surprised me most was the reaction from our social circle. I figured they'd either jump on her poor me bandwagon or just stay out of it completely. Instead, a bunch of them actually reached out to back me up. Grabbed beers with my buddy Mike, who straight up said, "Dude, we all noticed something was off when you kept showing up to shit alone." She'd feed us some BS about you being swamped with work or whatever, but it started smelling like total crap after a while. And Tara? She didn't even sugarcoat it. Your wife's been acting shady as hell for months, constantly on her phone, being all secretive, bailing on plans last minute. Textbook cheating 101, if you ask me. Turns out I wasn't the only one who'd picked up on Kiva's disappearing act. Everyone saw it. They were just waiting for me to figure it out. About a month into the divorce proceedings, Rachel called me out of the blue. "Hey, I know this is weird, but can we meet for coffee? There's something you should know." We met at a cafe far from our usual spots. Rachel looked nervous. "I'm not sure if this matters anymore, but I found out something about Kiva that might explain some things." I shrugged. Not sure anything could really surprise me at this point, but go ahead. Rachel took a deep breath. She's been seeing someone, a guy from her yoga class. It started around the time she suggested that trial separation to you. I absorbed this information with surprising detachment. That tracks. You don't seem shocked. I figured there was someone. The constant disappearances, the lying about where she was. Classic signs, right? But honestly, it doesn't change anything. Rachel nodded. I confronted her about it. She tried to deny it at first, then claimed it only started after you abandoned her. But I've seen the texts. It's been going on for months. Thanks for telling me, but like I said, it doesn't really matter now. The divorce is happening regardless, I said. As I was leaving, Rachel hugged me awkwardly. For what it's worth, I always thought you were too good for her. 2 weeks later, Kiva's parents showed up at my door unannounced. Wasn't exactly expecting that, but whatever. Let them in, and they dropped a bomb. Kiva was now telling people I'd been abusive, controlling, and isolating her from friends. Classic desperate ex move. Her parents weren't buying it, though. They straight up told me they knew their daughter was lying, that they'd raised her better, and they were disappointed in how she was handling everything. Even offered to testify to her character and my decent treatment of her if needed. Pretty wild when your ex's parents take your side, but it made sense. They'd seen enough of her pattern of lies to recognize this was just her latest attempt to save face. I hadn't heard anything from friends about these accusations yet, but I'd been keeping a low profile anyway. Thankful my lawyer had prepped me for exactly this kind of desperate last-ditch character assassination. When Kiva's lawyer tried to introduce these claims in our next mediation session, they were quickly dismissed given the complete lack of evidence and the mountain of documentation showing her pattern of absence and deception. The divorce was finalized 5 months after I filed. In the end, she couldn't secure financing for the house, so it was sold and the proceeds split. We divided our other assets equitably, and since we had no children, there was no need for ongoing contact. The last time I saw her was at the real estate closing. She looked thinner, tense, avoiding eye contact. As we were leaving, she tried one last time. This didn't have to end this way, you know. I looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time in months. The woman I'd once loved was barely recognizable beneath the bitterness and desperation. "Yes," I said quietly. "It did. The moment you decided to test if you wanted to be tied to me forever, this became inevitable." "It wasn't a test. It was just—" I walked away while she was explaining for the millionth time what that separation shit was, not looking back. Some chapters need to end for better ones to begin. But the weird thing that happened lately is that about a month after the divorce was finalized, I got a text from Rachel. "Can we meet for coffee? Need to talk to you about something important." I was hesitant, but agreed. Rachel had been decent throughout this whole mess, and I was curious what she wanted to discuss. We met at a small cafe. Rachel looked nervous, fidgeting with her cup. "Everything okay?" I asked after we got the small talk out of the way. She took a deep breath. "Not really. I found out something you should know. About Kiva." I braced myself. "Go on." "She's been telling everyone that we've been having an affair, that this is the real reason you wanted a divorce." I nearly choked on my coffee. "What? That's insane." "I know. I've been denying it. But she's convincing people. Her version is that you two were having normal marriage problems. She suggested a brief separation to work things out, and then discovered you and I had been sneaking around behind her back. That's completely delusional. We've never been anything but appropriate." Rachel seemed miserable. "I know that, but she's got half our family believing it." I sighed. Why am I not surprised? When she can't control the narrative, she makes up a new one. "There's something else," Rachel said, looking even more uncomfortable. I'm I'm pregnant. I blinked, processing this unexpected news. Oh, well, congratulations? I didn't know you were seeing someone. I'm not, she admitted. It was just one night, with a guy I met at a bar. I was upset after everything with Kiva. Made some bad decisions. Hey, single moms rock it all the time. You'll be fine. She gave a weak smile. Thanks. But that's not why I'm telling you this. Kiva's convinced the baby is yours. Says we must have hooked up right when the separation started, and that's why you wanted a divorce so quickly. I stared at her, completely floored. Are you kidding me? I wish I was. She's telling everyone who'll listen that we're having a baby together. But we never even, that's completely false. Rachel nodded. I know. I've told her that repeatedly. She won't listen. She's fixated on this idea that we betrayed her together. I sat back, trying to process this new level of insanity. So what do we do? Rachel bit her lip. I hate to ask this, but would you be willing to take a paternity test? Just to shut her up? I know it's not yours, but it's the only way to prove it to everyone. I considered this. On one hand, it was ridiculous to have to prove I hadn't fathered a child with my ex-wife's sister. On the other hand, clearing the air completely might be worth it. Sure, I said finally. If it helps end this drama, I'm in. So that's where we are now, guys. Waiting on a paternity test to prove I didn't knock up my ex-wife's sister. Obviously, the kid isn't mine. We never even held hands, let alone anything that could make a baby. But this is what my life has become, proving I'm not the father of my former sister-in-law's baby. Wild. Anyways, I'll update again when we get the results. But we all know what they'll say. Just amazing how far Kiva will go to avoid taking responsibility for torpedoing our marriage. Final update. Hey folks, this is going to be my final update, hopefully. So I got the paternity test results back. And surprise, surprise, I'm 0% the father of Rachel's baby. I sent copies to my ex, her parents, and our closest mutual friends who'd heard her bullshit stories. My only message, hope this ends the lies once and for all. The fallout was immediate. Kiva had been telling everyone who would listen about our supposed affair, playing the victim of our betrayal. Once people saw the proof that she'd been making this all up, her support system crumbled fast. Her parents were mortified, and friends who'd sided with her felt manipulated and stupid. Her dad called me the next day to apologize for her behavior. Told him it wasn't his fault. They raised her better than this. Last week, I got a certified letter from a mental health facility 2 states away. Kiva was getting help, acknowledged the damage she'd caused, and wasn't asking for forgiveness. Just letting everyone know she was safe. Forwarded the info to her parents who were relieved. Rachel's doing fine with the pregnancy. Turns out the father is some college guy she reconnected with at that bar that night. Dude was shocked but stepped up for co-parenting. And I guess that's it, Reddit. Case closed on the craziest chapter of my life. I'm moving on and never looking back.